Cinderella Tries on the Glass. Slipper Story, written by Charles Perrault. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She had a heart as pure as gold, and a smile that could brighten the gloomiest of days. Unfortunately, her life was not as cheerful as her disposition. Cinderella's mother had passed away when she was very young, and her father had remarried a woman with two
daughters of her own. The stepmother and stepsisters were not kind, and they made Cinderella's life quite difficult. Cinderella was tasked with endless chores and was rarely allowed to join in any of the fun and games the village children played. She found solace in the company of the animals who visited her in the garden. Birds perched on her shoulders, and mice scurried around her feet as she sang sweet songs to them. One day, an invitation to a grand royal ball arrived in the village. The entire kingdom was buzzing with excitement because the prince was looking for a bride. Cinderella's stepsisters were overjoyed, but they had no intention of taking her to the ball. Instead, they demanded that she help them prepare for the event. Cinderella, with a heavy heart, assisted her stepsisters in selecting the most beautiful gowns and adorning themselves with jewels. She wanted to go to the ball more than anything but knew it was impossible, or so she thought. As the sisters left for the ball in their splendid carriage, Cinderella felt her tears welling up. She sat on the garden swing and sobbed quietly when, suddenly, a shimmering figure appeared before her. It was her fairy godmother, a tall and elegant woman with a twinkling wand. "Dry your tears, my dear," the fairy godmother said with a kind smile. "You shall go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, she transformed Cinderella's ragged clothes into a magnificent ball gown. On her feet, she placed the most dazzling glass slippers. Cinderella couldn't believe her eyes. She felt like a true princess. But her fairy godmother warned, "You must return by midnight, for when the clock strikes 12, the magic will fade." Cinderella climbed into a beautiful carriage made of a pumpkin, pulled by 6 white mice turned into horses by magic. She set off for the royal palace, where the grand ball was in full swing. As she entered the palace, all eyes turned toward her. She was the most beautiful person in the room. The prince, who had been dancing with many other guests, approached Cinderella. He was captivated by her grace and beauty. They danced the night away, and Cinderella felt like she was floating on air. However, as the clock neared midnight, she remembered her fairy godmother's warning. With a regretful glance, she slipped away from the prince and ran from the palace. In her haste, she left one of her glass slippers on the palace steps. The prince, determined to find the owner of the mysterious slipper, searched the entire kingdom. Meanwhile, Cinderella returned home, and her beautiful gown turned back into rags. But she couldn't stop smiling because she had experienced a magical night. The next day, the prince and his herald arrived at Cinderella's house. Her stepsisters tried to squeeze their feet into the glass slipper, but it was too small for them. Finally, Cinderella's turn came. As she slipped her foot into the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. The prince recognized her instantly and asked her to be his bride. Cinderella accepted, and they lived happily ever after, with the kind-hearted Cinderella bringing joy and compassion to the entire kingdom. And so, the enchanting tale of Cinderella teaches us that kindness, courage, and a good heart are more precious than any ball gown or glass slipper, and they can lead to the most magical of happy endings. Thanks for watching.